What if the greatest obstacle to peace in your life and in the world isn't external at all, but internal? What if the wars, conflicts, and suffering we see around us are reflections of the unconscious patterns within the human mind? In A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose, Eckhart Tolle invites us to awaken from the grip of the ego, the false self, and to live in alignment with the deeper consciousness that connects all of life. Tolle begins by saying that humanity is going through a collective transformation, an evolution of consciousness. For most of history, humans have identified entirely with the mind and the ego, the voice in the head that says, I. But this identification has created suffering because the ego is never satisfied. It lives in fear, comparison, and desire. It's always looking for something to complete itself, yet it can never be complete. The first major lesson from A New Earth is the ego, the false self. Tolle explains that the ego is not who you truly are. It's a mental construct made up of thoughts, memories, roles, and labels. It's the story you tell yourself about yourself. The ego thrives on separation, on the idea of me versus them, mine versus yours. The problem is that when you identify with this false self, you live in constant anxiety. You measure your worth through comparison, achievement, and approval. You fear loss because you think your identity depends on what you have. But Tolle says, the ego is always concerned with having possessions, having recognition, having power, but true fulfillment comes from being. The second lesson is the pain, body, emotional energy from the past. Tolle introduces a powerful concept called the pain body, an accumulation of old emotional pain that lives within us. Every time we experience anger, sadness, or resentment, and don't fully process it, that energy stays with us. It becomes part of the pain body, which can get triggered by events in the present. When the pain body takes over, you might find yourself overreacting, lashing out, or sinking into despair. Tolle explains that the key to healing isn't fighting the pain body, but witnessing it. When you observe your emotions without judgment, when you feel them fully, without feeding them with thought, the pain body loses power and begins to dissolve. Awareness is the light that ends the darkness. The third lesson is awakening, becoming the observer. Tolle says that awakening is the shift from identification with the mind to awareness of the mind. It's the moment you realize, I am not my thoughts, I am the consciousness that observes them. He uses a simple practice. Whenever you catch yourself lost in thought, pause and ask, who is aware of this thought? That question brings you back to the present, to the silent, observing consciousness within. This awareness is your true self, peaceful, spacious, and free. The fourth lesson is the present moment, the gateway to freedom. Tolle reminds us that the only place life ever happens is now. The past is memory, the future is imagination, but the mind constantly drags us into both replaying regrets or worrying about what's next. That's why we feel restless and unfulfilled. Freedom begins the moment you bring full attention to the present. He says, realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. Make the now the primary focus of your life. When you live in the now, you connect with the peace and intelligence of life itself. The fifth lesson is the illusion of ownership and form. The ego defines itself through form, through things, titles, achievements, and even opinions. But forms are temporary. Everything that has form will eventually dissolve possessions, status, even the body. When you identify with what changes, you live in fear. True freedom comes when you realize you are not the form, but the formless, the consciousness that remains when form passes away. Tolle writes, "You are the awareness behind all forms, the stillness in which all things arise and fade." The sixth lesson is the ego in relationships. Relationships, Tolle says, are one of the most powerful mirrors of ego. We project our unmet needs and unresolved pain onto others and call it love. But when the initial excitement fades, the ego feels threatened and begins to blame or control. This is how love turns into conflict. The solution is awareness. When you see the ego at work, when you catch yourself reacting, needing to be right, or feeling superior pause, recognize the ego's voice, and instead of feeding it, return to presence. When both people are conscious, relationships become spiritual partnerships, spaces for mutual growth and awakening. The seventh lesson is surrender and acceptance. Tolle teaches that suffering arises from resistance to what is. The mind says, "This shouldn't be happening," and fights reality. But life is what it is, regardless of your opinion. When you resist, you suffer. When you accept, you find peace. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity. It means seeing clearly what is, and responding consciously rather than reacting unconsciously. Tolle says, "Surrender is the simple but profound wisdom of yielding to rather than opposing the flow of life." The eighth lesson is the purpose of life awakening. Tolle redefines purpose on two levels: the outer purpose, what you do in the world, and the inner purpose, awakening consciousness. Your outer purpose may change over time, but your inner purpose never does: to awaken, to live in presence, to embody awareness. When you fulfill your inner purpose, your outer purpose aligns naturally. You stop chasing meaning and start expressing it. Work, relationships, creativity all become extensions of consciousness itself. The ninth lesson is ego and collective consciousness. Just as individuals have egos, so do groups, nations, religions, and even corporations. Collective egos create division and conflict on a global scale. War, greed, and environmental destruction all arise from unconscious identification with us versus them. Tolle says humanity's next step in evolution is not technological but spiritual, the awakening of collective consciousness. As more individuals awaken, the energy of awareness grows, leading to a more compassionate and peaceful world. The 10th lesson is the flowering of human consciousness. Tolle believes we are at the threshold of a global shift, a new earth where people no longer live from ego but from awareness. This awakening doesn't mean abandoning the world, but transforming how we live in it. We still act, work, and create, but from love, not fear. He writes, "The awakened individual is the seed of a new earth. When you awaken, you become the light of consciousness through which humanity evolves." The 11th lesson is the joy of being. At the heart of a new earth is the experience of being the simple, peaceful awareness of existence itself. When you're present, you realize that joy doesn't come from external achievements. It arises naturally from within. Joy is your natural state, obscured only by the mind's noise. To live in this joy, Tolle suggests simple practices. Bring awareness to your breath, feel the aliveness in your body, or listen to the sounds around you without labeling them. In these moments, you return to the now to being itself. The 12th and final lesson is living awakened. Awakening is not an escape from life. It's a deeper participation in it. The awakened person still faces challenges, but with inner stillness instead of resistance. Life flows more effortlessly. Decisions become clear. Compassion replaces judgment. You realize that you are not separate from life. You are life. You don't live your life. You are the life that is living. When this truth takes root, fear disappears and gratitude takes its place. So how can you apply a new earth in your daily life? Start by observing the voice in your head. Notice when it criticizes, compares, or complains. Each time you catch it, take a conscious breath. Feel the present moment. Don't try to change the mind, simply watch it. Over time, awareness dissolves the ego naturally. Bring presence into your relationships. Listen deeply. Practice acceptance instead of resistance. Let every challenge be a doorway to awareness. The more you live in the now, the more peace you bring into the world. The big takeaway from A New Earth is this: the end of suffering, both personal and collective, begins with one thing: awareness. When you awaken from the illusion of the ego, you realize that who you are is not the story of your life, but the consciousness experiencing it. That realization changes everything. That was A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, broken down into its most powerful lessons in under 12 minutes. Which insight spoke most to you? The power of presence, the healing of the pain body, or living without ego? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this summary, make sure to like this video, subscribe to 10-Minute Books, and ring the bell so you never miss our weekly breakdowns of life-changing books. Thanks for watching, and remember, a new earth begins with a new you.